to those demand for service. So that's one of the things that's driving these requests for FTEs in all areas. I'll go into the service levels, touch upon those a little bit. There's a few of them there that you see that are flagged as red, and I can discuss those. And then I'll talk about I'll go through the business cases. I think there's 3 or 4 there that detail the FTE requests. The police budget, our intention is not to represent that budget. That budget was presented on October the 28th, the Committee of the Whole. But my esteemed colleagues are here to answer questions, that we can. So without moving along, so I'll move to page 358. So this service level obviously is in regards to, the service requests that come in and the feedback loop to citizens getting updates on their service requests, either through email. We're hoping that new software and increased efficiency can better this. Obviously, we've had some feedback from council and from citizens, and we've made changes through Jennifer Dallaire and her group through comms. This is one of those things that we continue to work at and try to improve that process. We understand that citizens want to know where their service request is, if it's been closed, and what the outcome has been. I mean, ultimately, the chief and I have had that discussion. We'd like to see the callback as much as we can, so someone actually physically calls someone back to have that discussion with the individual. So that's where we're hoping to go in 2025, I mean. Page 360. This is under the fire prevention umbrella, and this is inspections. You'll see that we're having consultations and discussions with the fire marshal on how to achieve these levels of service. That'll be ongoing in 2025. Move to page 366. So this page at the bottom, the level and tooth requests, you'll see the 4 firefighters, the 5 FTEs, municipal employees, and the 7 conversions of community safety officers from bylaw. Page 367 is the business case for the 4 FTEs for firefighters. So this request is to have a second individual on the rescue truck. And this will also increase the minimum staffing levels on shift, something that hasn't changed for a significant amount of time. We feel that this is an important ask, and that's why it's here. Also, it was mentioned yesterday, I believe we touched upon a little bit about the fire master plan report. That should be in by December 31st, hoping to have a presentation and report back to council sometime in the first quarter of 2025. Page 368. Is the conversion of 7 community officers in bylaw. So currently we have a contract, the community safety officers are contracted through the Corps Commissioners. What we've seen here is that, and the great job they've done, and I think I should have said that to start, everybody in protective services do a tremendous job, and a lot of these individuals put themselves certainly in harm's way on a daily basis. So, I mean, really the effort and work that we've seen across the board is pretty amazing. These individuals, when that originally kind of was created, we contracted through the Corps Commissioners, and I think as much to see where that would evolve and where that would go. And we know that this area is not going away. It's going to continue to grow. What we've seen is that for recruitment and retention, it's necessary to have those employees as city employees. So we're asking here for the 3 positions that are in parking, as well as 4 supervisors. You'll see the net costs, the delta, as Jack McDonald used to like to say, is around $50,000 to do that. We think this is a very important thing, and it's going to be a great thing for the department. And whether the next phase would potentially be to convert the other positions in the next calendar year. The page 369. No, not 369. Maybe I missed one. Yep. Back to 368 is the municipal employee request for police. So there's 5 positions there, and this is really reflective of, again, increased demands. There are things coming down the pipe, or already in the pipe, that place increased demands on the administrative level there. So that's why we have this, and you'll see that the cost there is represented at $428,000. Moving to page 373. So the police budget, obviously, the 20% left there, as I mentioned previously, presented by the CRPA on October 28th. Of that 20%, that there approximately 6% is for the new lease, almost 5% for div admin, 4% of that is new officers, 1% of that is for the municipal employees, and then there's some salary increases in there as well. So happy to take questions or get the right people up here to answer those questions.
Terrific. Thank you, Jeff. First up is Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Jeff, and great job. Just wanted to make sure you were recognized. You weren't around yesterday. Back in page 367, we spoke about the putting an extra firefighter on with the rescue truck. So I take it, if this is what I'm trying to think that this is what it is that instead of taking the big engines out every time we have an overdose call, maybe the chief can answer that. Chief. That we have a rescue truck go out. It seems we're going to beat these vehicles right to death. These large engines. I know Dieppe has done that. Sends out a rescue truck with maybe 2 people in it or 3. So is this what this is about?
Thank you, Your Worship, to Councillor. Not really. So right now, our rescue truck is only staffed with 1 firefighter, so it creates some safety issues when they go. So this is the big rescue truck when it goes to motor vehicle collisions or large fires. It's to have a second person there in that. So let's say to carry in a ladder or generator or to go in to help the other firefighters, it's better to have a team of 2. We don't want to send, so it's to complement that person. What you're talking about, we are exploring that. There's another model that Calgary Fire is using, is to have an additional smaller SUV, so not the big rescue truck, to go to these medical calls. What we've done too, like the rescue truck goes what we call cold, so no lights and sirens unless there's something that indicates. We are exploring also like our second and third vehicles to go cold. That's what most municipalities do in the big cities, so that it's not as the wear and tear. So if you go at 80 kilometers an hour, it's harder on the engine than at 50. So we're slowing down our vehicles. So we have our vehicles also, we purchase them smaller. The last one we purchased was a lot shorter and smaller. So we're doing some stuff to make sure that they last that 15 years that we want. So we are exploring though as a separate unit, smaller unit for medical calls.
Dieppe is doing it already.
Yeah, Dieppe, what they're doing, they're splitting their fire crews, and that's not a recommendation that I would support, because then if you have a fire during that medical call, then you have a fire crew with only 2 firefighters instead of 4. So it creates some challenges doing that.
All right, thank you, Your Worship. I just got a couple more here. Jeff, when you go back to what page it was on, but it was regards to the 5 new positions for the 368 for the 5 positions. Is that only needed if there's 17 people, members hired right away?
Chuck,
The 17, it's not for extra support. It's from our operational plan, so that's what needs to be supported. We already have enough. I guess there's some of it that would be to support the 17, but not directly the 17, but the teams that they're on, and a few of them are there to. It's like a kind of a pilot project, I guess, that we want to try different things. That's in our operational plan as well. That I think we mentioned that last time. The investigational aids and.
Yeah. Well, I guess my understanding was that if you hired 17, you needed 5 more support, and I can't. Even if you get to go ahead today, you're not going to get 17 starting in January, and you probably won't have 17 by June, and you probably won't have 17 by September. So I'm asking, do we need the 5 positions right now, or do we build up to the 5 positions over the next year and a half?
Okay, so two things there, I guess. So we wouldn't get the 5 municipal either that quickly. We got security clearances, we got to attract them, so that would take quite a bit as well. But the 5 aren't to necessarily support the extra 17. There's actually new tasks that these people will be doing. So some of them would be for support, some of them would not be.
Okay, so the 5 have nothing really to do with the new 17, or very little?
Yeah, like for example, there's a body cam that's coming up, so we need to support the additional body cam. Not for the 17, but for the whole staff, for example. That would be one example.
Okay, thank you, Worship, thank you.
Next up, Councillor Legier.
Thank you. Just some questions, I guess, in and around, and maybe Chuck might be able to answer this, or whomever, but or maybe you, Jeff. Just the breakdown of the 5 additional support staff. So what is, and I apologize because I wasn't here for the CRPA presentation. I only got back on the 30th. But with respect to the information processor and 2 information officers, are the information officers there to complement the media person, or exactly what what's their definition besides the telecommunications operator and then also the OCC? So those are simple, but just
So the list that I see there is not the list that we would have or what we presented during the budget. So here's the breakdown of the 5 positions, still 5 positions, but
Yep.
different than what I can see there.
Okay.
So you'd have 2 investigational aides, which is what I just mentioned to Councillor Butler, I guess. So those would be to support. If you look at the operational plan, one of the things that we want to do is increase our solvability, that kind of stuff. So that would be for that task, I guess, if you will. We also have someone from Victim Services. Again, that's to support, they work in their community policing unit, and I think we've had quite a few requests, I guess, for social workers, that kind of stuff. That's what these people are for. So Victim Services, that's what that would include, so to augment that particular area. And the last 2 are for to customer service. So that is one of the plans that we have for next year, is to change one of the complaints that we were getting from the public, and when we did all this engagement, I guess, with public counselors, everything else, was actually when people called, they weren't getting the services that they wanted, I guess, so very abrupt sometimes, or because it's part of a 911 system, so obviously so we're trying to figure out a way that we would actually improve the customer service for non-emergency calls. So that's what this is for. So again, that was definitely clearly identified in the operational plan. So that's what we're trying to address.
So just for clarification, there'd be 2 investigational aides. So those are the ones that will work with, victims?
Nope,
victims
those would be, so we'd have one for the patrol section.
Yes.
For the members, and one in the investigational aid section.
Okay.
Yep.
And then who is?
The victim services is one of them.
Is one of those?
Yes.
And what's identified as an information processor?
There is no information
There-
processor augmentation this year. So of the 5 that you have on the list that I can see from here,
Yes, how would
those
they?
aren't the 5.
So how would those 5 then be properly identified? They would be 2 investigational aides, not information aides,
Correct.
and one
Friend victim services
in victim services. Okay.
and 2 customer service. We don't have that customer service positions. Those are new. We don't have that correctly
Okay.
right now.
All right. Okay. With respect to social workers and so on, I mean, there's no question that the complexities, we keep hearing about them, and they're not necessarily, the bulk of what we're seeing on the streets isn't necessarily crimes, so therefore, we have to reflect on the number of officers, even though we know that, for example, the ratio compared to other cities may not be as robust as the perception is that it should be. So are there plans, for example, or is this somewhere where, where we extend hours for individuals that can help the RCMP during domestic disputes and so on, to have that over a 24-hour period? Maybe enlighten us on discussions with Vitalité and with Horizon, because it's in their best interest. And we're just trying to get our heads around that, because, I mean, besides the regular things that we hear, which is, we need a traffic division, we need to have, more boots on the ground, we need to have, visibility. Can you elaborate on that and then maybe come back and say, so of the officers we're going to hire, what does this look like in terms of what can we expect? We know there are delays, so even though the number is a number, by the end of the year, we hopefully will get to 3/4 of that, of those numbers of new officers. But maybe just elaborate and help the general public just begin to understand, and myself, on exactly what all of this can look like, because it's a lot of money.
Yeah, sure. I think the superintendent can probably, I'll just start with, on your municipal side, I guess, two things. So right now, in the operation plan and in this budget, there's, and we currently have a pilot project working with Reconnect. So that's a significant part of the budget and what we're trying to do. So those aren't social workers, but they would basically would be that kind of service, if you will. So that's a 24/7 that Kodiak pays and wants to extend, continue next year. So that's in the budget. So that would be one. So we get that often about the social worker. That's kind of covered off there. The other thing is that we have 5 municipal employees working as community officers, I guess, intervention officers. So those, while still we tried to get social workers for those 5 positions, never been successful in attracting them. But those 5 people are also working 2 shifts, 4 on, 4 off during the days, to cover off those things. So I think we're fairly well covered there. Plus, then we have the mobile health crisis unit and all those other services, I guess. So we meet with all those providers once a week to just sort of map out what we're doing, to make sure that that we see any new trends, I guess, that are going on. So that would be the non-member part, which is there to help the members, I guess, coming in. But Ben might want to say a few words, I guess, about the members.
Good morning, everybody. Just to add to what Chuck was saying, so with the new provincial government, as we know, that social issues, health, addictions is a provincial, I guess we could say, responsibility. We, in the coming weeks, we're going to meet with our colleagues in the new government, public safety, and the various other ministers to develop what we're seeing on a daily basis, and to say, this is what residents, elected officials, and what we think would be adequate and necessary and required for Kodiak RCMP, but also across New Brunswick. So we're going to keep working on that. But the bottom line is, even though we've tried these pilot projects, the RCMP doesn't normally hire social workers. It's a partner. So, and we need these vital partners to do our job on a daily basis. This is going to be something that won't happen overnight, obviously, but it's something that we're going to be at the table for. So the next part of your question, Councillor Leger, is so regarding the 17 new positions, the New Brunswick RCMP is mandated within 12 months to fill every single one of those positions. So no, they won't be filled on January 2nd. There's various steps that we got to go through, but within that 12-month period, so by December 31st, we'll have all 17 of those positions filled. And then we're going to be in great shape to be able to say, moving forward to that, how we're going to be able to increase our solvability rate, do a much better job on some of the investigations that are in our holdings, and have KPIs moving forward. So the 3-year plan that was delivered back in October, if we can think about it, in reality, it's a 3-year plan, but will take 4 years to fully implement, because it'll take 6 months to a year to implement year 1, and then year 2 and year 3. So, but we're all going to measure this as we go throughout the year to be able to give those results, those expected results, and those KPIs.
Okay. May I ask, with respect to the support services for the RCMP, what about mobile crisis? Has that been increased at all in terms of going 24/7 and so on? As much as Reconnect is important, and it is in terms of intervention, what about, or at least contact with people, and then you've got the community officers. So how does that fit in? Because it is successful, and it has been talked about a number of times.
Yeah. And again, I think I haven't shied away for this to say that we need those services 24 hours a day, because at times, at nighttime, 3 in the morning, for example, who do you call? You only call the RCMP because we're the only people on shift for public safety and dealing with these issues. There is talks to make it 24 hours a day. We're still limited to what the provincial program is. It's 12 noon to 10 p.m. Currently, 7 days a week. We see it as an absolute requirement to have it 24 hours a day. So we're going to keep talking to our partners, but I know that it's in the talks, and we're cautiously optimistic now with the new government that they sent out their mandate letter to all the ministers. We had a look at that, and also optimistic to see that it's potentially going to happen within the next year.
So you hope to partner with the provincial government to have the crisis unit 24/7?
That's what we would like. Yes, absolutely.
My next question would be, what about your stand on supporting the city's desire, even as a pilot project, City of Moncton, to have our community officers become peace officers? And certainly now with the new government, it has been raised a few times, even with the local MLAs, and some of them are ministers. So what could you offer in terms of support to us and other municipalities, actually, who are feeling the same pressures of wanting to have, community officers out there, but who have peace officer status?
Yeah, it's a much more complicated, I guess, decision than I guess just at my level. There's various things that need to be done, and there's, like I've said at previous council meetings, there's different things that are done in different areas of the country. So it's obviously something that we're willing to explore. I know we did explore a little bit of it. There's certain requirements for that regarding supervision and I guess command and control of exactly what they're doing on a daily basis. But it's something that we will definitely come back to council with, and we'll take note of that.
Okay, thank you. Merci.
Thank you. Next up is Councillor Richard.
Thank you, Mayor Arnold. Jeff, you touched on a few. I'm looking for some more information. The 48 hours to respond to the requests and the 4 business days say that we're waiting for new software to increase efficiency. Where are we with that? Like, how far have we gone? When should we see these improvements?
Thank you, Your Worship, to Councillor Shaw. So the tenders have been in. We are in the evaluation process. We have till December 17th as a group to submit our evaluation, and then that will be brought to council in January for the new software. So we're very well advanced.
So what can the residents look forward to? How's this supposed to?
It's mostly, for us, for example, this software will be able to tell us, hey, you haven't talked to this resident for 2 weeks, and it's going to give us a flag, and we can call that resident or send an email. So that, I mean, it's huge, the software, but it's examples like that. So for the citizens, we're not sure. There's a portal that the citizen could go in and put their service number and find out the status. So that's another option that we could do. So it's more internally for efficiencies and find out where our files are, and as a management level also to find out where all the cases are. It's a little bit more user friendly than the current system, but it's mostly that for the residents is that we can set it up to a week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks. Say, listen, give us an alert whenever we haven't talked to a resident, and we can call them back or send them an email, say, hey, we're still working on it. Here's the latest. So
Because as a common user, of reporting issue,
Correct.
It's not good to not know.
yeah.
Then the counselors get the calls.
Yeah, and we're trying to kind of minimize the robotic emails that it's so it's have more of a personal. So if it's a personal email is even better than, and a phone call would be even better. So now we have a half of a support staff that's with us that we didn't have before. That's one of our duties is to call back some customers.
I appreciate that, and this next question might go to you as well, Chief. The schools, colleges, universities, daycare, special care homes inspected annually as the hospitals every 3 years. We've got a target of 100%, and there's just no for the target achieved. So are we doing these at all, or where are we actually at that?
Right. So the provincial government has sent out, first of all, We don't have to do this. That's a provincial responsibility. We choose as a city to do it. There's a lot of advantages of us doing it, but the provincial government has set up a standard. So for a certain type of building, it's got to be done every 12 months. Another type of building, like daycare, hospitals, schools have to be done every 12 months. Every 48 months or whatever, there's a standard. We don't have the staff to do that, period. So we're negotiating with the government to say either give us some funds to increase that staff or reduce those standards, one or the other. So we're in current negotiation, and actually can report the negotiations are going quite well, so.
Good, because I'm not a fan of reducing standards.
No, I agree 100%.
Okay, merci beaucoup.
Councillor Crossman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks to all three of you for the presentation. Jeff, I'll start with you first, if you don't mind. Just a few questions, and I'm sure that our Chief Landry may have to answer this one. Can you show me in the budget, I've raised the fire master plan, which you commented before, and you said that it will be coming to council before the end of December this year.
No, it'll be completed before the end of
Oh,
December.
completed.
Yeah,
Okay,
First
so-
quarter of 2025.
First quarter will be presented to council?
Yep.
So do we have in today's budget some sort of allocation towards that plan so that recommendations coming from that can actually be implemented in 2025?
No,
We don't?
no.
Okay, thank you for that answer. Thanks as well, Jeff, for your work on the social issues along St. George Street and Mark Avenue as well. I know that that takes a lot of your time every day. I know that you drive by them probably every day, you know, whether or not that happens, but I appreciate what you're trying to do there. And my next questions are for the superintendent and the CRPA, so if I could. Superintendent, I want to thank you for making the comment on mental health and addiction as a provincial responsibility. I think that that needs to be mentioned at the microphone that you're standing at more and more often, because we as city council seem to always get the brunt of the social issues, and our RCMP members, which are great members, are out there doing the best that they can, and we're lacking, the province is lacking services. So I'm glad to hear that you're going to have conversations with the province moving forward on mental health and addiction. I think that's a very key role. Last time we talked, and I made a note, and I just want to make sure my note is correct. The new members that are coming on board, we pay for every member the city of Moncton pays for every member $55,000 a year to J Division in Fredericton. Is that correct for paperwork, give or take a few $1,000s?
Yeah, I don't have the exact number, but there's that divisional admin fee that's for every single member, yes.
Okay.
That includes, it's a cornucopia of things that we're paying for.
Okay, so and what is our number roughly for membership? Because as I go through the CRPA budget, which was presented, which was given to all of council, we're at 199 members. That's before the 17 members come on board. Would that be correct?
Oh, that's after,
That's after?
yes.
Okay, so if we did 199 members at 55,000
It's a large number.
almost $11 million is paid to J Division for paperwork, we're going to call, or not really paperwork, I guess it would be paperwork, wouldn't it?
Well, it's all the administrative side, but that includes everything else. So it's like access to the helicopter, the plane, the emergency response team, the tactical troop, forensic identification services, all the specialized services. But the paperwork, yes, absolutely, because like our human resources, recruiting, training, everything under the sun that we don't have here specifically at Kodiak. We don't have a training section. We don't have an emergency response team. So it's that big red button for when something major happens, but all the administrative side as well, too.
Okay, so the traffic division that comes to Moncton every so often would be considered part of the funding I guess the funding would come from there in order for them to come here, would that be
So
correct?
instead of giving a wrong answer, I could check on that to see
Okay.
where, because I know that they have 10 fully funded members across the province.
Okay.
Like, there's 3 of them here in the southeast area, but I don't have that information to know what their full salary is funded, because it could be completely funded by the province, but there could be that part that's funded through div admin that everyone pays into.
Right. Okay, if you don't mind, I'd like to know that question. Chuck, if you don't mind, you had talked about the additional civilian staff that would be going over. When I looked at the 2025 budget highlights, they talk about 2 investigation aides, and then they talk about 1 information processor. So are you saying that information processors is going to be a different term moving forward, or a different name, or a different subject?
Well, the customer service that I mentioned to Councillor Legier, I guess, or information processor, it's the same.
Okay, so
job.
that'd be customer
Yeah,
service.
so it's just a difference in title, but the same category. They're doing part of the same job, yeah.
Okay, and OCC still going to get 1 operator, or hopefully?
No operator is there for this year, yeah.
Okay.
So we put 1 in victim services instead.
And 1 non-scheduled OCC trainer would be out,
Correct.
correct? Okay. It's just I'm going by what your original budget was.
Yep.
So, because I know you made notes that it wasn't the
Correct.
same as what was there.
Yes, correct.
Okay, good. And one last question. When I look at your budget, the overall summary page, the larger page, I know it's hard for you to see, Superintendent. That's why I wear glasses. The print is so small. At the bottom, it says distribution. Moncton is for 2025, 70%. Contribution is almost 42 million. Then it says Dieppe is at 10%, which is 6.3 million. And then, sorry, that's Riverview at 10%. And Dieppe's at 18.5%, which should give them about 11 million. Grand total is close to $60 million in policing. Is there some way, and I know that we do this when we have a tri-council meeting, to actually get the CRPA to a city council public meeting to actually quarterly give us updates on what is going on for that large amount of money? I know we have representatives on council that sit there, and we've asked this question before because CRPA meetings I've gone to them. They're not televised. They're not public. They are public, but they're not public. And then you've got councils that meet together, the tri-community, and they're not public. So how do we get more information out to the citizens on what CRPA and the relationship with the RCMP is like? And Superintendent, you come every twice a month to the microphone and give us a briefing, which is great. But I think we need to hear from CRPA, who drafts a portion of this budget, on their responsibilities to Moncton City Council. How would we do that?
You go ahead, we'll bring it back to them.
Well, one of the things, I guess, that we undertook, I guess, in past summer, I guess, was our comms plan, I guess.
Okay.
So significant amounts of difference or touch points, I guess, with the public and councils, I guess, will be introduced. We're actually going to have a map, I guess, on when those things are going to happen. But as the superintendent just mentioned to me, is that we'll bring it back to CRPA to see how they want to do that. But we are going to introduce some significant changes in the way that we communicate
Okay.
because that was also one of the clear messages we received from the public and from councils, I guess, that we needed to be better at doing touch points, I guess, with the community.
So just like some examples of that could be whether there's look, let's be honest, we're way behind on social media and the young people in our community, and everyone listens to podcasts. So why not do a podcast with the RCMP to say, hey, this is what happened over the last week, and introduce the new faces to the community, so like new members. So you can put a name to a face, but also, I think we mentioned it when we presented the budget, having a proactive community consultation meeting. So we attended a bunch in the West Main and at Legends for the Moncton North. And those were brought on about citizen issues and concerns that were led by various people, whether it was council or citizens, is do those proactively and actually schedule them and say, once every 6 months or whatever it's going to be, we're going to have these events, and then people can come and we can connect with them and tell them exactly what's going on in their community, put a name to a face, and then also take questions from individuals. So instead of waiting for there to be an issue and people to be upset, frustrated, and putting stuff on Facebook, for example, we'll do it proactively and be out there and have those meetings.
Okay, good. And since you're at the mic, with the additional officers that are hopefully going to happen, as you're saying, within that first calendar year, what can the community expect to see on the streets?
Well, okay, so it's a little bit of I guess, a repeat of when we presented it. It's the things that through the consultations in our operational plan that we can do better is the investigations, specifically property crimes, person crimes, and the solvability rate. We're really good at getting to the calls really quickly and placing people in custody, laying charges, but where we're struggling is that follow-up, is doing all those neighborhood inquiries, checking for video and all that, increasing our solvability rate. So that's what the people are going to be able to see, because 10 of the 17 are going to be investigators. They're going to be able to take those files right away. So I'll just use one example. This morning, there's a new team that started on patrol. It's for their 4-day block. If a call for a sexual assault comes in, it's going to be a patrol member in uniform that's going to take that call initially, do the initial work, and then most likely pass it on to one of our investigators. So you already have like that handoff. What our plan is that when that call comes in, it'll be the investigator that starts the investigation right off the bat. So two positive byproducts is you'll have that more seasoned, more trained investigator that leads that investigation from start to finish. And the patrol member who's in a marked police car, instead of being at the office taking a 3-hour victim statement, is going to be out in the community looking for bad guys doing bad things, being visible and doing more of the proactive work. So it's wherever we invest at this point, it's positive throughout.
Okay, and as we go throughout the year, you'll update us on the membership increases.
Absolutely, looking forward to it.
And the effect in the community. That the biggest key here, and you've known that, you've been to these community meetings, you've said it, the effect is on the community.
Absolutely.
Right? So that, we need to figure out a better way of communication, right? It's a partnership. The community and the police are a partnership. What's going on, you can't be everywhere all the time, just like city council members can't be in every part of the city all the time to know what's happening, right? So that's the key. 2 more things for you. I know in the past you've come to the mic and I've seen you at your presentations talk about people that have been charged 100 times, as an example. How's the court system doing? Because, and I'm going to explain this to you because hopefully you can correct me if I'm wrong. If you arrest somebody for some violation in the city of Moncton, you take them into the station, you process them, you get to the court is delayed or postponed. How long is it before they're back on the street that you're following that person again and then charging that person again for a different crime and so on and so forth? How does somebody get up to that level?
Well, the first thing that I'll say is that we're bound and, I guess, limited by the criminal code, the amendments to criminal code, excuse me, and various reforms for bail hearings and all that. There's some people that we have arrested, like you said, multiple times. We keep seeing the same faces. The second that we see somebody that's constantly committing some of these offenses, the first phone call is with our Crown prosecutors to say, we intend to keep this person into custody because they're causing too much harm in the community and they don't get it. So it's all I guess, a calculation based on prior convictions, past behavior, whatever. But what I will tell you is that once to finish your example, we've arrested an individual, we want to lay charges and we want to remand them into custody. Our decision point, we can give an opinion, but our decision point, we don't have that decision once they get in front of a judge. The judge will decide whether the person gets remanded or released and whether they have a condition, no conditions, or several conditions.
Right.
But we know these people extremely well, and at last council, I mentioned that 15 of those people are incarcerated right now because our criminal analysts are pretty awesome. And our members show up. every second day when a new team, patrol team comes in, and we have pictures of these individuals, the people that we need to go pick up and say, here are top 5 or top 10 or top 20 people that are causing the most harm in the community. Go find these people and they're arrestable for this, or we can investigate them for this. So extremely good. So we do keep tabs on our people, but is it a perfect system? Absolutely not.
Right.
But we're gonna, even if we arrest somebody 500 times, we'll do it. And we'll do it 501 times.
Good. And my last comment will be on traffic control lights. Traffic control, red light. Everybody loves to use the red light camera idea. I like the traffic control better, but because it's a user pay system, right? It depends if the person's breaking the law by running a red light, and correct me if I'm wrong, but running a red light is breaking the law.
Yes.
Blocking an intersection during a red light is breaking the law.
Yes.
Okay, just so we're all on the same page. Expired plates are breaking the law.
There's over 450 sections in the New Brunswick Motor Vehicle Act.
Okay, because I'm sure when the media covers this, they'll want to make sure they quote me on red light cameras and the fact that it's a user pay system, and then there'll be a lot of people saying, whoa, wait on, it's going to affect everybody, but it's only going to affect those that actually do break the law. And I think with you standing at the mic today and the challenges within our fire department, who knows what the master plan's going to say, but I wish we would have had something in the budget for the master plan, some sort of recommendation to fund a portion of improvements. That's my opinion. But if we, you, the city manager, maybe myself, I've been at this since 2017 for red light cameras, can have that discussion with the province and decide on a funding program, because right now they did change the legislation on the Motor Vehicle Act to allow this, but the holdup is the funding. It's the distribution, it's who issues the ticket, but the bigger picture here is the amount of money that can come back into public safety and be less of a burden on the city taxpayer. Because for every violation right now, the money does not come back to the city taxpayer. It's going to another division. So for me, I'm hoping, Superintendent, I know you and I have talked about this. I know back in 2017, Stefan Thibodeau and I, from City Hall before his accident, we made a little bit of headway on this. Is this something that you're willing to sit down with maybe the CAO and myself and have these conversations? Because I need your opinion, and I need your actual, not only opinion, but data to support this.
Oh, absolutely. Look, willing to speak about that. The only thing that I'll say regarding that is that any piece of technology tool that'll make the road safer, I'm 100% on board, because I'm a driver in this community, so is my wife, and my daughter in 4 years will be driving in the city. So, and everybody has loved ones. It's just another tool. And I agree the funding model is complicated, and hopefully that gets sorted out, but the RCMP will be at the table to assist in any way we can, whether it happens or not. So,
Right.
it's good technology, and like I said, I think you asked me this question, and I said that I once got a red light camera ticket when I was 17 years old living in Ottawa. So I'm 46 now, so they've been around for a long time.
Right, well, good example. Did you pay that ticket?
Absolutely.
Okay. But other than that, Superintendent, I appreciate your comments, and Jeff and Chuck, I appreciate that. My questions have been answered for now, and Superintendent, I hope that we can look at these red light cameras, and the actual money that could come in that go back into public safety would be, pretty impressive. But we can also get Amber Alerts. We can also do cell phones when people are driving their cars, stolen vehicles, things along that line. I know a lot of people view it as a negative, but to me, to your point, a safer community is eyes on the community constantly, right? That's what you're always telling us when you come to the mic. Additional members, when you go to community meetings, you say additional members are eyes on the community, right? Apartment buildings being built, they're eyes on the community. It's driving public safety, right? And awareness, so.
Yep.
But thank you. Thank you, Your Worship.
Next up is Councillor Kingston.
Thank you, Madam Madas. Thank you, Ben and Chuck, for coming in. Just a couple of comments, not really a question, and to Councillor Crosman's request. Certainly, we can never over-communicate, and I'd be more than happy to bring more than regular updates to Council from the CRPA. Maybe it could be a regular part of each meeting, whether it's detail-filled or just merely reviewing recent meetings. I certainly welcome that as the Council representative. And I guess just a parting comment on the red light cameras. I know that it was on Facebook recently. The city of St. John, through Mayor Reardon, advocated to the province much the same as we're talking about, and they recommended a 50-50 split on the red light cameras. That came from St. John to the province directly. So the advocacy continues, and we certainly push for that, and we'll continue to push along with Ben and councils all over the province, really, to get that implemented. It's high time. I think it's come. We all know what driving is like in this city. It's very challenging. And again, the traffic division that comes in bi-monthly, I'm not quite sure the schedule. We can't welcome them enough to come into the city and to help out, because the results, Ben and Chuck, you would testify to that. The results when they come in for that 36 or 48-hour period are staggering. They're astounding. What's found, what's discovered. What's uncovered in the recent routine stops is incredible. And that leads to other departments within the RCMP to solve. What are your comments on that, Ben?
No, it's exciting. I think anybody on council or residents, just whether it's in the morning for the morning commute or in the afternoon, it's getting really busy. And I've been here for 5 years, and it's unbelievable how much has changed over the last 5 years. And I've been a resident of the Moncton area for 7, and I can't even imagine somebody that's been here for 10, 20 years to see the difference. But that provincial traffic team, when they do come, in a one-day period, it's like 200 traffic tickets. So it'll have, whether a funding model changes one day, just imagine revenue that's potential. But also, for me, it's that deterrent effect, is seeing them visible and different intersections, different areas in the community. And that's where people, if they see it on a daily basis, and that's our goal in year 2 of the operational plan, is having that full-time traffic enforcement on a daily basis in our tri-community here, is for local residents to leave the phone alone when they're driving, make sure they're buckled up, slow down in school areas, and just have safer driver habits, because we are getting extremely busy here in the tri-community. It's just leaving from the detachment, try to get to Dieppe will take you 20 minutes sometimes. So, and that's the same thing in any direction that you leave the downtown.
Here, Ben. Thank you very much. Merci, Madame Edis. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone who has not spoken yet who wishes to speak? Okay, I will go back to you, Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple questions. Well, statement first, 17 members is a lot to ask for, as we all know. We spoke with that before. When we talk about, and maybe the superintendent could speak on this, when we're talking about in your budget as regards to, I think it's 6 into community policing, is that just coding that we're doing? Because how many's in there right now?
No, it's a good question, Councillor Butler. So right now, the full-time positions in community policing, there's only 3 positions that we have. It's a supervisor and 2 constables. But we have 5 of our patrol members that are assigned there into community policing, just because 3 is not enough for the demands of the community and the social issues and everything that's going on. So again, those are people that should be on patrol out there in community visible. They're doing some other good work. So that's why those 6 position is to, normalize a community policing unit. Because if we look just back 3 years ago, we had Christy Elliott, like I said many times, that would walk up Main Street with Manny, and now we're at 3 positions, and it's just not enough. So it's to normalize those positions and eliminate those assignments.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is that if you're looking for 6, there's only 3. If there's 3 in there now full-time, you're looking at 3 more in there, correct?
No, 6 more.
You want 6 more?
Absolutely.
So when we had our meetings, and I'm glad that you brought that up about the West End and also the North End, and I spoke about this before. One of the things they talked about is seeing more police officers, and one of the things that any councillor here will talk to you probably say is that one of the complaints we get the most is traffic complaints. We get them to call in as much as they can, but I would think that this might be an opportunity that, with some, and maybe even to sit down and talk with CRPA, that instead of putting another 6 in in community policing, maybe we could have 2 or 3 that could start off in traffic and do maybe a dual job description, that they could, when they're not busy in traffic, that they could do some community policing. But, just when I look at what you put forward, you've come since January to here, and, you've spoke every month about what a great job, and the men and women on the streets are doing a great job. But then all of a sudden, there's a quote to the press that we're hanging on by a thread. Well, I think that, we should know that before the press knows that. I think that, way back when, somebody should have been telling council that we're in pretty bad shape here, that we need 17 people, that we're hanging on by a thread. So I think that now that we're not going to be hanging on by a thread, if we pass the 17, I think it would be nice to maybe listen to council and what the complaints are, and part of them is that we have a traffic problem. And so instead of, I realize that investigations have to be done. There's probably, like you said, some that's now haven't even been touched. I understand that. But when we're talking about community policing, is really community safety is community policing. So I just wondering what your views would be on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what the Kodiak RCMP requires is not 17, it's 46 extra members. So that's what's part of our 3-year plan. That's what we need to get to where we need to be effective and to serve residents of the tri-community effectively and safely. So 17 is year 1, and that's what we're looking for the support. So speaking about traffic enforcement, couldn't agree with you more. So our patrol members do traffic enforcement on a daily basis between calls for service, and our community policing members, that's part of their duties. So in fact, the member that gives the most traffic tickets and issues the most traffic warnings is one of our members on community policing that does community policing full time, because it's part of their duties, whether it's walking up St. George to doing septeds, talking to business owners, doing stuff in schools. Traffic enforcement and visibility is a big part of their job. So I get where you're coming from, Councillor Butler, I understand, but to have more of an impact in the issues that were brought forward to us in the consultations, first and foremost is we got to do a better job in our follow-ups and investigations, because that's the worst day in somebody's life when they have to call the police, and we want to be effective in doing those investigations. However, the traffic enforcement, we can't be blind to that. That's why that was year 2 where we need to focus on that.
I guess, when you go back and, we're considered the gatekeepers for the taxpayers' money, and when we make decisions here, we have to make decisions that we have to make their life should be a little bit better than it was last year. So, when I talk to them, one of the biggest things is the traffic. The second thing is regular patrols in the deterrents in the neighborhoods. And so, when we talk about, putting 10 members in plain clothes, which we need, you've made a statement about that, and you've made a case to CRPA. But at the same time, that's reactive policing. It's not proactive when you're doing that. So we'd like to see a little bit more proactive policing.
And that's exactly what's going to happen, because with our investigators taking on all those files off the plate of our patrol members, more members will be out in the community making those proactive patrols and being more visible.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Legier.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. Merci, Surintendant. So, juste pour que je puisse mieux comprendre, cette année, on demande un ajout de 17 officiers. Ils vont, pour la plupart, faire les investigations. Ça va quand même permettre des officiers réguliers de pouvoir faire d'autres choses comme, disons, au niveau de véhicules, ces choses-là. Mais ce que je me demande, en fin de compte, puis tu le mentionnes, que c'est que dans la 2e année qu'on parle réellement de trafic, on parle réellement de ce qui se passe sur nos routes. So, est-ce qu'il y a un plan quand même pour cette année, disons 2025, de revenir peut-être 4 fois par année et avec, disons, des critères de ce que vous faites, c'est quoi vos réussites? Parce que vous n'allez pas tout simplement arrêter de de circuler et d'essayer d'arrêter les gens, par exemple, qui font de la vitesse ou ces choses-là. Donc, j'aimerais un peu mieux comprendre. Je comprends qu'au niveau de crime, solvability is a huge issue, related to crime. But on the other hand, we also have a lot of traffic issues. And so I'm just trying to, and I understand that you say, well, this is the first of 3 years. We go from 17 to 46 is going to be the ask. And then I think the question then becomes next year, how many officers, and I hope next year we have a conversation in and around how many extra people are going to be attached to this for social issues. Because I think this, to me, I can accept this year that we require extra officers so that we can take some pressure too off the existing officers. I get that. But I hope in the future, and that's really a question of the CRPA, is that they ask the questions in and around, it's not all about policing, and we know that, and we're seeing that across the world. So anyway, just in terms of where we're spending $9.5 million this year, additional for the 17 officers, just give me some reassurance or reassurance to citizens that they will see a difference on our streets, and at least you will come back and tell us. Like if you didn't tell us what the effect of the traffic unit was, nobody would know except for the 130 or so that they got tickets and so on, right? And again, your communications plan. But just help me with that so that, at the end of the day, we have some feeling that we're going to begin to have maybe a stronger relationship with the RCMP. We already have one, but that basically it might give them time, your officers time to interact more with the general public.
And I think
more visible.
the last part of it is exactly that, is wherever we invest, it's going to improve the work that we do on a daily basis throughout the city. So like I just indicated to Councillor Butler, is if one of our patrol members doesn't have a file to investigate a sexual assault investigation, they're going to be out on the road, because those are just like our number one cardinal rule is, unless you're preparing a file for court or you're using the washroom or having lunch, the expectation is being out on the road, and that's Inspector White's job to ensure that on a daily basis. So taking work, the investigative work, the longer-term investigations off of the plate of our regular patrol members will have that positive impact, having them more visible, more traffic services, more road safety. By the middle to the end of 2025, with that investment in investigative services, I foresee a dramatic increase in the amount of traffic tickets that we're going to be issuing, because the members are going to have more time, because they're going to be able to be out there being visible. And if we have nobody that we're looking for that day that's committing various crimes, then it's proactive work. It's going to be out there, and not just on Main Street, St. George, Vaughan Harvey, and Wheeler, but in all the small communities, all the small areas as well, and all the neighborhoods. So there's thousands of streets in this community. I've been on pretty much every single one, but we can do a lot better on that too, just for that visibility side of it as well too.
I think what will be important, though, is to have some expectations to give us some expectations. I mean, I could say that I have a lot of work to do too, but it depends on what it is that you want to, specifically focus on. And so time available by an officer is different than, the expectation is that you're going to, you're going to be proactive, yes, but that there needs to be some type of target. There needs to be something that says, a measurement, and I guess, and that's what I hope that we will see, so that
Absolutely.
And again, so that we can thank officers for doing the things that the general public are asking them to do, and maybe at the end of 2025 we'll be in a more proactive, as you were saying, position where, things are happening in a much more probably more relaxed way. Instead of being reactive, things are a lot more positive that way. So that's my expectation. And again, next year we have to have a greater conversation in and around social issues and what we do in terms of social workers, mental health, and so on. So we have a year to, you have a year, and Chuck, in terms of speaking with Vitalité, Horizon, the provincial government, and sort of coming maybe up with some type of long-term strategy for our community. we're not alone, by the way, and the Municipalities Association in New Brunswick are really advocating for, very similar things that Moncton is seeing. We just seem to be ahead of the curve in terms of some of the things that we've seen. So anyway, thanks a lot, and thanks to your officers. I have a quick question related to community officers, and I think it's a really good initiative to bring the individuals on full-time. I don't think we say enough in terms of how effective they are in our community and how much they impact our daily life. And I think that, it's a tough job, and I hope that, we continue to give them the resources. And I think that's really important. As much as we've talked a lot about Enviro and what they're doing, and that's a big part of it, but our community officers are really, essential. And I think the RCMP appreciate what the community officers can do. And I think if we can strive again towards, a peace officer status, it could be even a better partnership. And maybe that would be under the control of the City of Moncton with respect to peace officers, and with some oversight, obviously, by the RCMP that are there, and some type of agreement. So I think that's great. And my last is about fire. And so we're putting one extra firefighter on. Well, I guess do the 4 firefighters then, are there going to be a rotation through the fire rescue truck, or does it give more ability to cover off on some overtime, and based on I guess past history, we by hiring extra firefighters, I think last year we reduced overtime. So just a comment in terms of how that is going to roll out.
Thank you, Your Worship, through Councillor Leger. So the last year was to reduce the overtime, so that was the 4. This one is not really going to affect the overtime, so it's 1 firefighter per shift, so we have 4 platoons, so there'll be 1 extra per. So right now we have a minimum of 21 firefighters. This will bring it up to a minimum of 22 per day.
And in the report that we'll see next year, does it outline our growth, what the expectation is of number of officers, highlight as well different firefighting conditions that we're beginning to experience in our area, where we have a larger number of buildings that are in excess of 10, 15 stories and so on?
Yeah, so the master plan, they've met with pretty much every department of the city. They surveyed the city. They drove in our city, went to the water treatment plant and all that, the water capacity, everything. They turned every stone. So it's going to be quite comprehensive. So they look at from fire stations to firefighter to equipment to training to fire prevention. Every aspect is going to be part of this, yes.
And my last question is, how soon do you think we could roll out small vehicles for medical calls? It was in the news again today. A lot of the rural municipalities are struggling with their firefighters going out to medical calls. We have large equipment going to medical calls. What is the plan to, augment, allow the firefighters to be, for the most part, firefighters, and allow a paramedic crew, if that is indeed something we should even be involved in, and if we are, then the types of negotiations that need to take place with the provincial government, they're supposed to provide health care services. It shouldn't really be at the expense of the municipality.
Right. So the master plan, there's one goal that they have to look at is our medical first responder program. So there's one section of the master plan that's going to address that. So that, again, what we've been doing is working with the provincial government. For example, some nursing home that have nurses 24 hours a day, we don't go do anymore. So for example, could a shelter have a paramedic 24 hours a day, and we wouldn't go to that shelter anymore because there's already services there. So like the hub on St. George has one like during the day. So they're kind of looking at they offer that 24 hours. So we're looking at options like that. So again, absolutely right, if we could have a second unit that just like Calgary has, that just has just goes through medical calls maybe in the downtown. And we have all the stats, what's our busy time for those types of calls. So we could say, listen, from 10 a.m. to whatever it is, 10 p.m. would be this unit. But that, again, that would require additional staff. So once we get the master plan, they'll have, and the master plan, they look at what's the best practice throughout the country. So they'll know what works well and what doesn't. So really looking forward to their recommendations.
Thank you, merci.
Deputy Mayor Terrio.
Merci, Madame la Maire. J'ai pas vraiment de questions. Jeff, I just want to thank you for, you've really raised the bar for us on all of this, so thank you so much. Merci au surintendant, merci Charles, Conrad aussi. This is my 16th budget, and I have to say that this is really the best presentation that we've ever had. So merci à vous. Ça facilite notre processus de décision. Donc, merci infiniment. On sait aussi qu'au Canada, au pays, on dépense à peu près 19 milliards pour les coûts de sécurité publique. Donc, on sait que ça coûte, c'est très dispendieux. Donc, on sait aussi que les problèmes sociaux, les problèmes de la criminalité ne vont pas s'améliorer demain. Donc, merci à vous tous pour le travail que vous faites. Vraiment, je pense que vous servez, vous avez servi très bien la population de Moncton et on vous remercie pour ça. Merci.
Thank you. I do believe our CAO has a question from our colleague, Councillor Bourgeois. Go ahead.
Merci, Madame la Maire. Une question du conseiller Bourgeois. Une question pour le superintendant. Est-ce que les 17 policiers seront embauchés en 2025? Comment ces ajouts vont réduire le crime? Et un commentaire qui on serait sage de ne pas embaucher 17 policiers et plutôt embaucher 12 travailleurs sociaux près de la province, 12 bylaw officers et 12 peace officers pour complémenter les 137 policiers.
Merci. Donc, je vais répondre les questions qui sont relatives à la GRC. Donc, comme mentionné avant, on est mandaté pour remplir les 17 positions dans l'année calendrier, donc d'ici la fin de l'année 2025. Nos 25 membres vont augmenter notre habilité à faire des enquêtes, faire un bon suivi avec les gens qui sont victimes de crimes, mais aussi alléger le travail sur nos membres de la patrouille relatifs aux enquêtes, puis les mettre plus visibles dans la communauté. Qu'est-ce qu'il y a des autres questions? C'est toutes des affaires que nous, on est prêt à jaser, faire partie de comités au besoin, mais je vais laisser ça au Conseil à délibérer pour voir ce qu'ils veulent faire avec les ajouts de ces autres positions-là.
Excellent. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions? Are there any other questions? I do not see any. I'd like to thank you. I recently had the opportunity to meet with our Minister of Justice, Attorney General, Minister responsible for addictions and mental health services, all the same person, Minister Rob McKee, and very positive meeting concerning some of the social challenges we are having, including a real commitment to a mental health court opening. Will there be an impact on the members from if this were to happen this year?
It's a little bit to the points raised earlier with Councillor Lejean and Councillor Crossman is it'll have like an indirect impact on the members, but more on the offenders and on the community as a whole, because if you have an individual that's been arrested 96 times for the same offense, whether it's a property crime based on their mental health and addictions, the reason that got them there in the first place, and now we have a mental health court that can treat this person, whether it's a jail sentence, but then with services. I can see that potentially we could get to actually having some form of rehabilitation for these individuals, because then there'll be that follow-up. So absolutely, it's going to be benefit not only for the police, but for residents as a whole, business owners, but the offenders themselves, because Mayor Arnold, you asked me the question about what happens once offenders go into jail. Federal offenders have really good programs in the penitentiaries. Those are for the long sentences. Anybody in a provincial jail, not so much. That's where everybody can do a lot more work, because oftentimes the door opens and they're right back out doing what they were doing before. So.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. And thanks, Jeff. I concur. Like, you're doing a really great job bringing all of this together. I'm personally very happy that our bylaw officers, a number of them, will be full-time City of Moncton employees. I think a commitment to ensuring that everyone in our community can have a living wage is a very, very important commitment. So thank you for that. And I see no other questions. I believe this concludes the budget deliberations. We have motions which will be considered tomorrow, I believe, at 9 a.m. Any final comments? Anything anybody would like to add? Councillor Crossman, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to clarify, Jacques, that the grant process will be addressed again mid-December, pending if council members wish to increase or decrease community grants. I want to clarify that, because we haven't seen any documentation to support grants other than a few that you have in the budget.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, to Councillor Crossman. So the community grant, the new policy, the way it is approved is today, council approves the amount that will be in the process. Hold on, I have all my notes here. Just need to go to the right page.
It's the amount that has been budgeted for that.
So the amount that has been budgeted, exactly. And then after that, the committee, which includes 2 council members, 4 members from the public, and 2 or 3 members of staff, they're evaluating all of the requests that are submitted. Again, it's for the major and multi-year, They're going to come up with a recommendation, or they're going to come to council with what they've recommended based on the funding that is allocated by council today. If ever there are any ad hoc ones or anything else that is not included in there, council will have the opportunity to address those through the council contingencies.
And in this budget, there is an amount allocated for the council contingency for 2025 already that you have included in the budget. Is that
That's
correct?
right. We have $1 million.
And it's $1 million in there for 2025.
That's right.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. I think this concludes. Oh, Councillor Richard, are you hoping to adjourn, or do you have a question?
Question?
Go ahead.
Just to piggyback on what Councillor Crossman said, and we're going to be going through grants, so the amount allocated for grants is there already?
Yes, the amount allocated to grants, if we turn to page 230, we have this, we have 10,595,923. That is allocated for grants this year. And if you go on the schedule on page 234, we see a breakdown of how we get to that 10,595,000, which would be in your third column to the right, the subtotal grants right at the bottom of the page, that 10,595,000. So that would include $2.222 million of, let's call it, our operational grants. The ice time grants would come after that. The seniors grants, that's the insurance and property tax on the current building is there. Then after that, we have no, actually, that's not PAW, it's the Public Safety Committee. So that's, we have 21,000 there. Right after that, we have what we allocate to the Moncton Public Library and to the Capitol Theater. In our environmental area, that is MID and the Regional Service Commission, so the services that they provide us. And then we have what we are allocating to Ability Transit for a total of $10,595,923.
You've named quite a bunch there,
Yeah.
but there are grants that we're giving that are not.
Yes,
That we'll
absolutely.
be talking about in December.
Yes, absolutely. So what we've done, basically, we've adjusted the base amount to account for inflation and also for amounts that were added by council last year to some organizations.
So I guess what I'm looking for is in December, we'll see a full breakdown of that.
Yes,
Correct?
yes, exactly, what the committee has allocated, yes.
Okay, merci beaucoup.
Any final questions? This concludes the deliberations. Tomorrow, we will have a special public meeting at 9 a.m. in which we will debate 3 resolutions that have come out of these deliberations.
Yeah, just a comment yesterday, and I think it would be just for more clarification. So on the item, there were 2 items that were mentioned by council. One is easier to address. The other one, I think we would need to take back and come back to council. So the number one, the painting of the crosswalks. The cost of one of those crosswalks if it's for Remembrance Day, would be around $3,000. So if we do 2 or 3, we're fine. If it would be something more of, if we're going to do 9, 10 across the city, then we may be better off putting a motion for 20,000 or 15,000, whatever council. If it's a couple, though, the city's fine. So that is one thing for council to consider. The other one is the conversation. This one, I believe, needs a little bit more research and more work to be done if we're discussing the generator at the K. Crossman Center. That one, from my conversations, and I'll just explain a little bit of what's in the air. So currently, from what I recall, but I think this is why we kind of need to regroup as staff and come back to council. From my understanding, the generators that we have in our city for an emergency situation or an ECC, we have the fire stations where we have generators right now. We've done one at the Kodiak Transpo, and we currently have some funding for the Coliseum. The Coliseum, the reason that we have not moved on to that one now, or it's still budgeted, we're going to move, is we need to finish we're doing a lot of electrical work in the Coliseum, so that needs to be done before the generator. So those would be the ones that are in place right now for emergency situations planned. Now, for the K. Crossman, and this is where we may need to do more work, we would need to do a study because it can be complex in a building like that. The cost of the study would potentially be it could be up to $100,000 to do that study. When discussing with Greg yesterday, what will be important there, or the variances that can occur, is would the K. Crossman also serve, because right now it's listed, I believe, behind the Coliseum as your kind of ECC area. The Coliseum would be kind of the number one, and then that would be an overflow. But if the problem is with the ice, because generators for such a big building, it can be complex. From what I understand, there are some areas or some facilities that will have the generator that will just protect the ice. That's a lot easier exercise. If it's to protect it for the entire emergency services for the entire building, then it's a bigger generator that's required with a lot more complexities. So those were the 2 items yesterday to mention. I believe the crosswalks, I think that can be something that Councillor Butler raised. For the other one, we can look at potentially that 100,000 or so on. But the other thing too is we can take it away, come back to council in early 2022 25 with more of those details around the emergency plan for the city and kind of those things. I don't have all those details right now. Okay, perfect.
All right, Councillor Butler, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, I did it wrong. Just one sec. There you go.
Thank you, Your Worship. With the crosswalks, I was thinking 4. I don't know if I need a motion for that, just 1 in each ward. I think that would be nice to see where veterans live in every ward. The other one that sorry, choo-choo train.
Just so you know, the CAO said, yeah, for 4, we don't need a motion for that.
Yes, okay. And the other one was, for the drop it to 2.5. Was that going to be?
Yeah, that one's a motion that is
Yeah.
tomorrow,
Okay,
coming tomorrow,
okay,
yes.
Fair enough, okay. Thank you.
Excellent. Councillor Legier.
So just quickly, and there's also the motion for a full-time addition to
I think it's
events.
part-time, though, is it not?
Well, I talked about full-time, then I realized in here they're talking about a half-time conversion.
It's a
So,
$52,000.
Yeah.
So that's a half-time, I would say.
Yeah, I would prefer full-time. I mean, if we're going to convert, I don't know if that's enough or not. So that's why I want some clarification. So,
Is there someone who can provide clarification on this?
So basically, currently, that position is shared half and half. So it's half with events and half with Coliseum. So
but is that going to be enough? I mean, the Coliseum have enough pressures on their own. So I was looking at it thinking, well, why would we steal from one to add to the other to try to double? So,
And and administratively, it's the fact that in this kind of motion is the Coliseum is not that active during the summer, so, but again.
yeah, but events is active all year round.
Perhaps we could hear from the subject
Yeah,
matter
maybe,
expert on
just to see
this.
what the story, I mean, it doesn't, to me, what matters is that we do this right. That's all.
So right now, there is a .5 position as a supervisor at the Coliseum and 1 in events. The objective of this is to make it a full-time, so to convert a half-time into a full-time position on both sides.
And does that give enough, I guess, strength to events for the moment to be able to operate? I mean, I guess that's what I'm sort of getting at.
It would certainly help to hold things off, yes.
Okay, all right.
So that's 2 half-times then.
That was the original intent, yes.
So that's like $100,000. It's 54? Okay, so 2 half-times can become a full for,
So there's a half-time and a half-time. The intent is to convert those into full. Now, maybe city manager or.
The two positions into full.
We.
Not taking the 2 people and making them one full-time. You want
No.
two full-time.
So if that's the case, it would be
Yes, and the
100,000.
budget-
so that's more than
and the budget is
$52,000.
required for that is $54,000.
Right, so that's more than 52,000. So in other words, 104,000.
No, the budget ask is current, is accurate to what is required to.
No, it would be 100,000 if it's to do that.
So
Yeah.
we'll get clarification and have
Yeah.
that clarification
So the
for tomorrow.
intent is to make 2 people who are part-time, full-time.
So there's nobody who's part-time right now, though. The person
Oh.
works at the Coliseum in the winter and works for events
So-
in the summer. So what it would move to is you would have a full-time position always at the Coliseum and a full-time position always at the events.
Exactement.
And do you need a full-time position always at the Coliseum? I'm just wondering, probably yes. Okay, so that would be the intent, full-time for each. Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Any last-minute clarifications on the 3 resolutions we have? No? I would take a motion to adjourn and meet you back here to discuss just those 3 resolutions tomorrow at 9 a.m. Thank you. Motion to adjourn. Thank you, Councillor Richard.